Hey everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Saga. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. Good evening, Hannah.
Good evening. How are you?
Doing great. This is the show where we talk about all those stories beyond the Skywalker saga. And we are getting back into the world of comics. Been doing a lot of novels lately. And I'm excited because I for a long time I've been wanting to dig into these. We're going to be talking about Star Wars again, which is the main comic line. We did the entire run. You can go back into our library here. We did the entire run of Star Wars comics, which was like 75 issues.
Cool.
And I think it was 11 or 12 volumes. Or actually, I think it was 13 volumes that we did. So it was 13 episodes, I think, of Beyond the Sagas out there that we each hit each one. And that was the story between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. This series, written by Charles Soule, picks up right after The Empire Strikes Back, or actually kind of during The Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
And we're going to lead up into Return of the Jedi. Now, we have, Hannah, because I don't know if you probably felt this too when we read this, but we did do the War of the Bounty Hunters series, which takes place during this time, right? Because that's all about Han Solo and Boba Fett and things like that. So we kind of have a sense a little bit of where this is going to go across at least a bit of it here soon. But but right now, this collects the first 6 issues of this series, which was back in 2020. This book, this trade book came out November of 2020. So it's been a little bit, but, and we're going to still do what we normally do. We're not going to spoil anything. We want people to experience it if you haven't yet, to go read this thing. But overall, Hannah, what did you think about this start to this series?
I thought it was a great start. I think as you said, it takes place during, but during is like the tail end of it during. We see what Luke, Leia, and Lando are up to. And I am really, to be honest, I wasn't entirely expecting to be excited for this series, but this volume made me go, okay, let's go. Because you have Luke, who just found out who his father was. So now we actually get to see him contemplating, what the heck do I do? We have Leia, who lost her love, figuring out what the heck is she going to do? And then you have Lando, who is in this really weird position trying to figure out what he's going to do. And I just think it's the perfect setup for what happens between 5 and 6.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's weird because I have this, I go back and forth on a couple ideas here. One, and I'm talking about kind of overall ideas. One, I'm excited to dive into stories that have new characters, new timelines. Kind of like reading the High Republic series is really good because, it's just all new. Getting into a novel that's, like Thrawn stuff is all new. But then when I get back to reading this, I'm like, man, I miss these characters. You know what I mean? Like, and there's something about, getting back to kind of what you're familiar with. And obviously I've never watched as much Star Wars as I have the original trilogy. So, picking back up right at the end of Empire and filling this gap, I'm excited to fill this gap. Because like I said, unlike the 75 issues we did before, that was a 3-year gap between those two movies. This one, it's only a year. Empire to Jedi is only a year. So there's not as many books that we're going to do in this series. I believe I saw it. There was there's 45 issues for this
Okay.
series. So 7 trades. So we'll probably do 7 episodes of covering each one of those trades. So it's not as many, but which makes sense again because there's not as much time. So it's going to be a little quicker to get to Return of the Jedi. Of course, Charles Soule, hands down one of the best writers out there. Period. Not just comic book writers, but novels, everything. So so you can definitely feel that it's his book, and it's really kind of, like you said, just got me excited for what's going to happen here. And like I said, we kind of know with War of the Bounty Hunters, where this is going to kind of lead to, but then I don't know beyond that, right? Until we get to the end, what happens after the War of the Bounty Hunter storyline. So I'm definitely interested in that. But I guess my biggest things on this was, very similar to, if I remember, very similar to the books that we read after A New Hope. There's no break in time. There's no like sitting back and relaxing for a day. Like this literally picks up and goes right after Empire Strikes Back. Like they are right in the battle again. They're fighting. I mean, it's really interesting to see and know that it's just not any. I mean, when you want to talk about like when Andor says, "I've been in this fight when I was 6 years old." I mean, every day they're fighting, and that's crazy to think about. Like they don't just sit back and take the weekend off and then go back to fighting. This is their life, and so until you kind of see this after story in these books, and you start filling in these gaps in the movies, it's not like Empire happens and then there's downtime and then Return of the Jedi happens. Like there's constant battles going on and fighting going on during that year, which is, it's exhausting to think about. Just I can imagine exhausting being for these characters. You know what I mean?
Well, I think Leia specifically is very used to it because even in the political realm, even though it seems like they're having a grand old time with parties and mingling and things like that, they are still fighting. They're still on the front line, just in a different sense. So
Yeah.
I think that it makes perfect sense now how she's able to kind of tuck those feelings deep down and just able to laser focus no matter what has happened, whether her father tortured her, which she didn't realize it was her father, but later on, but she was tortured, whether it's she saw her home planet and family die, whether it's she lost the love of her life in her eyes, she's still able to move on and she's able to focus on the end goal. And I mean, oh my gosh, it's mind-boggling that there is no rest, and they're all okay with that.
Yeah, right. I know.
They don't complain. Yeah. I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think in any of the movies, or at least in this comic that we just read, I don't think anyone complained about it either.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
That's crazy.
It's crazy to think. It's crazy to think. So, I don't know what's any particular moments or things that stood out.
Oh, there are, but some of them are spoilers, so I can't say. But the ones that we can share, I think it's very important. And I love the fact that Luke deeply considers leaving the concept of being a Jedi altogether and just being a straight up rebel fighter. I think that's such a realistic moment. And I'm so glad that he goes through it because, of course, with Vader saying it's your destiny, with Vader saying you're my son, of course that's going to scare him. He doesn't want to be like Vader. He doesn't want
Right.
that at all. So why even be tempted by the idea? Just I'll leave it and I'll be a rebel another way. So I think that was really important. I think it was very fun to see Lando in his Lando Calrissian way, trying to, play all angles. And at the end of it, he realized he just played himself into being part of the rebellion.
That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
And then Leia, like, she's such a powerful character, such a powerful female character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love her. I looked up to her when I was young. I still do now. Just her strength. And, like, don't get me wrong, it is important to have feelings. It's important to have those moments where you mourn and you just, you're in that moment. But I love the fact that she's able to just be so lasered focused and move on. And now in previous comics, we've seen what her really trying to downplay those emotions, what that's done, and it's not good. So I am worried about her, and I hope something works out. The other thing is the fact that Luke tries to meet a former Jedi to try to learn more about the
Mm-hmm.
Force with someone who's tangible, somebody who's actually there, because I believe the first time he sees Ghost Force Obi-Wan is in. No, he's already seen Force Ghost Obi-Wan, so he's trying to, you know,
Reconnect.
yeah,
Yeah.
get like a tangible, and
Yeah. That's
he's
right. Yeah.
yeah, and he's learning the consequences of what it truly means to be a Skywalker to somebody who was a Jedi. And then we see that whole point of view. I think that's
Yeah. That
really
was
cool too.
surprising. Yeah. Well, what was really surprising about that was the fact that this person knew Anakin was Vader.
Yeah. Which, like, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose? Like, I know we brought this up when we were talking about the Obi-Wan series, but I thought it was supposed to be a secret.
Well, I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was a secret. More so the fact that I don't know. Everybody that would have everybody that saw him at the temple like died.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if they would. Most of the ones that like Cal Kestis, he wasn't at the temple, so he doesn't know that Anakin was the one that killed them all. He just
Right.
knows that someone named Darth Vader did. And to him, Darth Vader's this guy in the black suit now. And Reva, she only did because she survived. But I can't remember if this one, I don't know if she said how she knew.
I don't think she did.
Right. So she must have survived from the temple?
She
That's the only
must
thing I
have.
can think of. Yeah.
She talked about how she ran from Vader, but the picture associated with that is Vader in his full getup.
Right.
And then she talked
Yes.
about the Inquisitors.
Yes. So she's
And
got a lot of knowledge of that.
yeah. So she
And it's
must
been a
have.
while. It's been 20 something years, right? So,
Yeah.
but she must have been at the temple. It's the only thing I can think of because, like I said, everybody that wasn't at the temple, I don't think would know
Right.
that it was Anakin. So, but that's a good point. I mean, that's a good because you would think we've thought this whole time in a way that no one knew. In fact, we kind of get that sense. Well, definitely no one knows, in that sense of when we get the bloodline, because
Mm-hmm.
Leia, that whole secret comes out at that point.
Which you would think that if somebody survived, they would be like shouting from the rooftops who did it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you would think that. So that whole part of canon confuses me.
Mm-hmm.
It just does, but whatever.
What are you going to do?
What are you gonna do? And then she also mentioned something that is very interesting to consider, especially when you think about the timeline of when this was released. There's mention of the High Republic.
There is.
And
Yeah.
so, but correct me if I'm wrong, I think they mentioned the High Republic before it was announced that the High Republic was an actual thing.
Yes, I think you looked it up. This book came out. The first issue of this book came out January of 2020.
And the announcement of High Republic, the novels and comics, was in February
That's
2020.
right. Yes. So someone that read it back then probably had to think, "Oh, High Republic. That's interesting. I wonder what that is." So now you know
Yep.
when that was, right? So
What stood out to you?
that pretty much was the big thing. Was I think Luke. He doesn't have a lightsaber anymore, which again is interesting because I don't think this is that much of a spoiler, but he does go back to Bespin and try to find it, which was pretty neat. But obviously he doesn't find it, and then at some point I know. Well, I won't say that. No, I think his journey is going to be interesting to follow because I think he's, like you said, I think he's, we're seeing the revelation of him being told that Vader's his father, and again in the movies you don't get that reaction again until a year later.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're seeing that immediate reaction and how this is going to affect him going forward. I think that is a pretty interesting thing. I think this is going to be, a little tough to go through too, because we are not going to have Han in this series.
Yeah.
Right. Han's in carbonite. So it's Luke, Leia, and then of course you got Lando and Chewie out there, but I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to diving into this and doing these books. So, and then there was just real quick some interesting characters. You had Poe Dameron's parents in this.
You did.
Yeah.
That was a lovely touch.
It was, and their first introduction was a book called Shattered Empire that came out years ago, and it takes place right after episode 6. So we got introduced to Poe's parents. So this obviously is right around that time period, and
we did that one, right?
We did.
Yeah,
I believe we did. Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting to see them in there, and of course we got introduced to a pretty hardcore Imperial, Commander Zara, and yeah, she's kind of like the next Tarkin version of Tarkin, I guess. She's actually taking control of his Star Destroyer. So anyway, good setup, just a good setup of these characters and where we're going to go with this, and looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, and can't wait to read the next volume.
That's right. So what's rating?
I'd give this a 4. I thought it was really good, very engaging, and a good setup for what's to come.
Yep. I'll give it a 4 as well. I think this is, as far as, impact goes, because this is again that time period where it's correlating with the movies a little bit. So this is going to have to me in a way, it's going to have a major impact on how I watch Empire and Return of the Jedi again at some point.
Absolutely.
When I get through this, right?
I could not agree more.
Yeah. So hopefully it fits really well, because there's a tendency of, of possibly going places and doing things that just don't make sense because it doesn't translate to the movies, you know? So you've got to kind of keep these characters true to themselves and to what may come and things like that. So anyway.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be good. It's going to be tough.
We shall see.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Let us know what you think about this. If you've read this book, if not, go get it. Go, I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's still for sale, probably. But if not, there's always digital versions out there that you can get. So we'll be back, soon to not only continue the series, but do other stories on Beyond the Saga here on YouTube on the Inside the Force. So come back and check us out. Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, Dave.
See you next time. Take care, everybody. May the Force be with you.